Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday night, another edition of the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series. And we're coming to the end of 2021, and it was at the end of 2020 that this idea got birthed with me. As many you may not know or may know, is I don't make New Year's resolutions at the end of the year or big lofty goals. I do plan out my year. What I do is make honor statements. And that's where you go around your house and you kind of look around and go, what do you own that you're not honoring? And one of the things that I recognized at the end of 2020 is I have a lot of books. I love books, curling into a good nonfiction book, a fiction book, and just being educated or taken to places wherever I went. So what I asked is my webmaster guy, Chewy Media, Jeremy and Katie, to put a section on my website about books that I love and adore. That was easy. But I still wasn't honoring the craft and the creativity of what it takes to write your book, whether it's a cookbook, a nonfiction book, a fiction book, a kid's book, whatever that book was. So then the idea popped in my head. It's like, okay, why don't I chat with the authors? And I've been so blessed throughout this past year to interview people that I've known for years and didn't know they wrote a book, and was referred to a bunch of authors. So this evening I have Laura Lane, the co-author of Two Moms, One Prayer, helping you face, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Facing your child's cancer with hope, strength, and courage.
Wow, what a title that we're going to unpack tonight and learn about you and your story and who should have this book. So thank you so much. I believe you're about author number 40 that I have interviewed this past year. So welcome to my virtual bookstore.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Laura, introduce yourself. Where are you located in this big blue marble? And what do you do for a living?
So I live in Ontario in Canada. I am a couple hours north of Toronto in the Bruce Peninsula, and it's this beautiful spit of land between Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm a courage coach. I specialize in providing loving, faith-based support to moms whose kids are fighting for their lives. That can be caregivers, cancer moms, and families that have a loved one with a life-threatening illness.
So this bears the question, how did you get into this particular career, profession?
So in 2011, my daughter Celeste, she was 12 years old at the time, and she was having headaches that were waking her up in the night, which I personally can't even imagine having a headache that bad that it wakes me up. And so we had a doctor's appointment scheduled for her. When she got to the doctor's, he also discovered she was having double vision. So he sent her to the emergency. She had a CAT scan by 2 p.m. She had an MRI by dinner time, and she was in emergency neurosurgery by 9:30 at night.
Wow.
What they had discovered is that she had a tumor that was growing. She had a mass that was growing on her brain. And then, so the headaches that she was having, the double vision, was because fluid was building up in her brain and causing all of that pressure. So that initial surgery released the pressure, but they said that the mass was down the brain. Underneath the brain is the pineal gland near the brain stem. Okay. And that's where she had a mass, and they weren't able to reach it. So they sent us to Toronto Sick Kids Hospital, and she had a second neurosurgery with one of the top neurosurgeons in the world, Dr. Drake. And he was able to get a biopsy, and we found out that it was a very, very rare brain tumor called pineoblastoma. There's only ever a handful of kids in the world who have that diagnosis at one time. It's usually 1 in 7 million is the chance of getting that.
Wow. so let's oh my gosh, there's so much that I want. So what was your state of mind while all this was going on when your child was going through what she was going through? And very quickly, like, so what was your state of mind, Laura?
The first thing I realized was that we were going to need a miracle. Secondly, I realized that this was way bigger than anything we had ever done before. And as a mom, I needed to be the best mom I could be, the strongest mom I could be. And it meant I couldn't do it alone. There was no way that I could do this by myself. And I was going to need all the help that I could get. And I also realized that all of the baggage that I had been carrying for many years, the things that I put off and I'll deal with that later, I realized was going to slow me down and hold me back from being the best mom I could be. And I needed to clear that up immediately. And I was finally willing to face all of that baggage and say, okay, who can help me? Let's deal with this now, because I need to be there for Celeste, and I need to be present, and I need to be as focused as I can on her. So who in the world can help me? And because I was doing it for my daughter, I was willing to ask people that I never would have asked for myself.
So when you say baggage, let's put some, for lack of a better word, label on what you mean by baggage. And still there, or did I learn? Laura, are you still there?
I am still here. And so for baggage, that was just all the emotional stuff I was holding on to, the crap I had gone through.
Okay, hang on. Up. My internet will come back. Laura, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Sorry, we froze a little bit on my side, and I didn't get to hear what the answer was to the baggage question, please. What baggage did you have to let go?
So for me, that was all the emotional stuff that I had been holding on to for my life. I knew that there were techniques out there, emotional freedom technique, tapping. I knew that there was the Sedona Method. I knew that there were people who could help me to let go of some of the emotional stuff I was holding on to. And so rather than just asking around, well, who do you know? I went to the top. So the person who teaches the Sedona Method that I had heard from, I called him up, and he was one of the top. And I apologize right now, his name is not on the top of my head, but I called him up and said, who do you know? And so he referred me to someone on his team. I called Carol Look in New York City, because she was a top EFT practitioner for tapping, and said, who do you know? And she referred me to a therapist who was local to me, who she said was phenomenal. And she's been in my back pocket for the last 10 years now, that she has been amazing. She was a trauma coach. She was a trauma therapist. And little did I know, one of the biggest struggles that cancer families have is PTSD. The whole process of watching a child go through all of that is so stressful that many parents come out with PTSD.
Would have thought of that. Okay, we're still back. I pardon you, the people that are watching, and I just want to let people know that are tuned in, because I know, Laura, you shared this far and wide about you being on tonight, is you'll see that it's by Zoom Live. And if you have any questions for Laura, I encourage you to put them into the comments, and she will come back and take a look at the MYBC Consulting page. I do like to stay present for my authors and my interviewees, so I don't get lost of track. And they're my gift right now, so I love to be present for them. And my internet is kind of a little sketchy, so thank you for keeping on tuning in as we continue this interview. That whole PTSD, is PTSD happening in the moment, or was it happening after? Like, define that PTSD, because that's something that I would have never thought about that at all.
So it happens along the process.
Okay.
When a child is diagnosed with cancer, there is so much going on. So there was the initial shock of that first day to go from 0 to 100 in 12 hours. I can't believe I'm waiting in the waiting room. My daughter is having neurosurgery, and it's midnight, and I'm waiting for her to come out of the surgery. Is she going to survive the surgery?
Right.
I had all the stresses before that of, okay, I can be at the hospital with my daughter, but my husband can't, and my son can't, and I've got 2 other kids at their dad's house, and we're coordinating, like, okay, where are they going to stay? Where do I get food? All of these things, because I'm not leaving the hospital. I'm with my daughter 24/7, and yet there's still all these things that have got to be coordinated. People to contact to say this is what's going on, someone to like keep an eye on our house, and because we were in a completely different city for where she did her surgery. Then not knowing, the whole not knowing the diagnosis. We didn't have a diagnosis for at least 10 days because she had to have one surgery. Then we were transferred to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. And I'm riding in the back of an ambulance with my daughter, and she has a bag of fluid that's being drained out of her head. And we get to Sick Kids Hospital. I don't know that hospital at all. And now I'm frantically trying to find resources in another city for me and for my daughter. And then from there, she has to have a second neurosurgery. So we go through this all over again. There are so many tests going on, so many presumptions, like chaos, just chaos. That's just in the first week. And then we get the diagnosis, and then I have to understand, what is this diagnosis and what is this treatment plan? And now they want her to do 30 rounds of high dose radiation, followed by 4 to 6 months of high dose chemotherapy and stem cell rescue. Well, what is a stem cell rescue? I don't even know what that is. And just trying to understand everything going on. They're assigning us a social worker. They're signing us like, okay, where do we stay? And can I stay at Ronald McDonald House? But I still have a family at home. We have a little son who's going to school. So my husband's got to coordinate. He's now having to change his work schedule so he can take care of our son. And I've got I got 2 other kids over at their dad's house. So many things. And then other people not knowing how to help. Right. And people asking, how can I help? And I don't know. And I'm keeping track of medications and blood counts and symptoms and she's got a fever. So what does that mean? And the things that used to be little are now huge, and the chaos of it, so much stress. That's where the PTSD starts, and then it just sort of compounds. Right. Okay. And feeling alone and afraid and powerless and just downright scared, just not knowing. And then at the same time, I had a training. I was fortunate. I had spent the year before training to become a personal growth and development coach. And I had been learning from Bob Proctor. So I've got all of his things in my head. What is fear? Fear is when I have an absence of knowledge. So if I'm afraid of something, it means I don't know it. I need to go and find something out. So I'm researching, and I've got this stuff, and I had far more resources, I think, than many did, and a tenacity to ask for help, because I'd been through crap before. And
Right.
and I knew that I can't do this alone. And so I'm just going to get all the help I can get, because I was doing this for the most important person in the whole world, my little girl.
Right, right. So that leads us to the question of the book. Where does the title, You're One Mom, One Child, but the name of the book is Two Moms, One Son. So where does
One
this all
son.
come in?
Okay,
Yes.
so when Celeste was first diagnosed, I didn't want to make myself more afraid by learning about her diagnosis. I didn't want to go on the internet and be totally scared by everything I read. So I put that out there that I'm not going to do that. We're just going to take things day by day, and we're going to process as we can. And I'm not going to go and Google. I'm not doing the Google search. I am not going to go and frighten myself. Well, a few weeks, couple months later, I get this nudge. Laura, you should go and look online. No, I'm not doing it. I said I wasn't doing it. Laura, you should go and look online. So I'm having this argument with God. And so I think it was a bit of a smack upside the head. Laura, go and look. So I open up my computer. I type in pineoblastoma, and this website comes up. It was created by another mom who had a child, a little 2-year-old, who had passed away many years ago. And now she made it her mission to help other parents with a child with this diagnosis, with understanding the diagnosis, as well as she had created a page to honor all of the children that she knew of, she was able to find, that have had this particular diagnosis. And so there's this list, and I start scrolling through the list. And there's this 16-year-old boy, and he was diagnosed in 1986. And here's a 3-year-old diagnosed in 1992. And here's a 24. And so I'm just going through this list, and I see here's a 12-year-old girl diagnosed in February 2011. Well, my daughter Celeste was diagnosed in February 2011. She was 12 years old. And this is like just a couple months later. And I'm like, there's another little girl out there who has the same age and has the same diagnosis. And then they happen to have a link to her care pages. So a website where they were updating family members about her diagnosis. So I reached out to them. They didn't even know they were on this website.
Oh, I think that's divine intervention right there.
So I reached out to them. The other little girl, her name is Haley. And so I reached out to her and her family, and her mom's name is Lori.
Too many coincidences there, Laura.
I did the math one day and discovered the odds of 2 12-year-old girls being diagnosed with this at the same time was 23.5 billion to 1.
Wow.
And the fact that I found them at all was just amazing, that we were brought together.
Absolutely.
So, and both girls were on the same treatment program. St. Jude's Hospital was the only hospital that had a treatment for this type of tumor. So both girls were on the treatment. And Haley was just 1 month ahead of. She was diagnosed at the beginning of February, and Celeste went into the hospital at the end of February. So they were a month apart in their diagnosis. She was just 1 month ahead in the process. And so as we would do things, Lori, Haley's mom, and we went from being strangers to best friends overnight. Because there was someone who really knew what we were going through.
Exactly.
And so one day, as we're communicating, and I'm just so overwhelmed by what brought us together. Not only that, but this was another family that had people praying for for Haley all over the world. And we had people praying for Celeste all over the world. And like that in itself. So every time that we would find out someone was praying for Celeste, I would write it on a sticky note and I would put it around her room. so that she was surrounded completely with all the love and prayers of everyone who was praying for her all around the world.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, so you know what? I'm going to get you now to grab your book, please, and read the back cover. First of all, show everybody the front cover. Beautiful, beautiful book, lovely colors. So please read the back of your book.
So this is Haley.
Right.
And then this is Celeste.
Just so beautiful. So please go ahead.
Heartfelt and Moving. This is a book that brings tears, hope, and presence of beauty and God to the surface of each of us. These two connected families demonstrated the power of community and the inner strength, courage, and hope we all can tap into when and if needed. Dr. Carrie Rungus. Two Mothers, One Prayer. Two moms' moving accounts of their family's childhood cancer journey, told with the honesty, love, humor, and respect via their shared emails, makes for compelling reading. Susan Kaczynski, OPAC Parent Liaison. Celeste has to have emergency neurosurgery, brain surgery tonight. How do you cope when you've just been told your daughter has a tumor and she doesn't know about it? How do you put on a calm face for your precious child? You just do. I was emotionally exhausted before I even stepped into her room. Yet adrenaline and focusing on what needed to be done kept me marching on. Armed with Pooh Bear, blanket, and Winnie the Pooh movie, Celeste waited for her surgery. Now looking back, I don't know how I was so strong to watch them take her away, my baby girl. Little did I know that 500 miles away, another family was going through similar experiences, and we would become each other's lifelines through our most difficult days that lay ahead. Laura and Lori share their story of friendship and inspiration, struggles and miracles, joy and sadness, love and loss. Their narrative provides a sense of hope and teaches us how to find needed strength and courage. It is a guide and support to any parents faltering under the weight of the horrendous news that their precious child has been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. It reminds us all of the fragility of life, the necessity to remain present in each moment, and how to find perspective in even our darkest hours.
So beautiful. So just 500 miles away. So wasn't that far? That wasn't that far away. Are they in Canada or the United States?
They were down in New Jersey.
Okay. And that leads me to the question. This was 2012, if I can remember.
2011.
2000. Oh, okay. So we are 10 years later. Mm-hmm. How are both Celeste and Haley doing 10 years later?
So Celeste, her cancer journey she was diagnosed. She went into the hospital February 24th, 2011, and she passed away on February 24th, 2013.
Okay, sorry for your loss.
And then unfortunately, none of the children on this particular treatment plan for Penioblat, none of the children made it. And Haley passed away a few years after Celeste. She did another round of treatments through New York City, Sloan Kettering, and then she did the third time it came back. She just wasn't able to fight anymore.
And when did you write this book? What spurred you to take fingers to keyboard or pen to paper and write this book, Laura?
So when we met, Haley and Lori, I just was so taken by everything that had brought us together and amazingness of both little girls and their strong faith and their courage and both of their tenacities. And one day I just got this overwhelming feeling and this voice that said I needed to write a book about these two little girls and tell the world about them. And So when I got that feeling, they hadn't even gone into their chemotherapy treatments yet.
Okay.
And so I just knew. And so I started to make note of everything. I kept every email, every exchange, just knew that I was going to be writing a book about them. So the girls went through their treatment. They each had, Haley had 4 rounds and Celeste did 3 rounds before it was too much for her. But then they were released from hospital, and then it was time to learn how to walk again, learn how to run again. They did school from home for a few months before they were both finally cleared that they could go back to school. Haley had her no evidence of disease. Celeste's tumor had shrunk 98.5%. And that's when I started to reach out to find people who could help me to write the book. And I studied with Marcy Scheimoff and Janet Atwood, who both have written New York Times bestselling books. And then they taught me what I needed to do to write a book and begin that process. And then when we found out that Celeste's tumor was, when her cancer became terminal, I had hoped I was going to have finished the book by then, but I realized that there was more to her story that I needed to write. And when she passed away, it's what got me out of bed every day. That I knew I needed to tell the world about my little girl. And so then we published in 2015.
Absolutely beautiful. So at this time, I'd love for you to open up the book and share a passage with us, please. Anything that you would like.
Okay. So in the book, there are 5 things that I share: reach out, connect, reflect, express, and love. And so this is on the chapter about love. And what I realized was that this was the hardest thing I would ever have to do. So parenting is one of the hardest jobs you'll ever have to do. Once you learn that your child has cancer, your job becomes 10 times more difficult. Along with the normal parenting stresses, now you don't know if your child will live or die. Your whole life gets uprooted. You now have to care for your child, deal with hospitals, appointments, diagnoses, medications, and perhaps even move to another city or endure long commutes to the hospital. It can be exhausting, but you do it. Of course you do it. Sometimes in a haze, sometimes in joy, sometimes in fear, but you do it. If you have other children at home, as most of us do, parenting them or even spending time with them will become more difficult. They still need you and you need them. But the cancer always seems to be there, taking priority over everything. You may incur financial hardship. The stress may cause a huge strain on your marriage. You may experience depression or loneliness. You may have thoughts of, what could I have done differently? The list goes on. This is a time when you're going to need all the love you and your child can get. The French philosopher Jean Delaglio's definition of love speaks to me. Love is an expression of tenderness. To me, tenderness is about recognizing that something or someone is fragile. It is about being able to hold or embrace them in a manner that understands and accepts that if you treat them too roughly, they could break, physically or emotionally. We are more readily able to accept the fragility of children and treat them tenderly with great love and affection, eager to protect them from the world. When a child develops cancer, we are even more aware of their fragility, and it becomes an opportunity to pour out our love on that child. I cherish the moments I had when I could hold Celeste, cuddle her, sing to her, and love her. It was indeed a very tender time. During Celeste's first round of chemo and her transfer from a regular room to her isolation room, what I called her healing room, as her blood counts dropped, we were discouraged from contaminating her bed with germs. That's hard for a parent to hear. Don't sit on your sick child's bed. But that didn't last long, and I was climbing into her bed again, holding and cuddling as much as possible. It was healing for both of us. Love is a powerful emotion. It has the ability to create physiological changes in the body. Love and hope and positive thoughts all have the ability to alter the body's neurochemistry. And there's a lot of research that has proven that. But a mother can tell you that the fastest way to ease the pain of your child is to love and hold that child. What is the first thing we do when our child falls down and scrapes her knee? We pick her up, hug and kiss her, and then apply the bandage. Love makes it all better. Loving your child becomes easily to most parents. Most of us don't need a reminder. We're doing it naturally. However, mothers forget how to love themselves. That is why I really like Jan Del Aglio's reminder that love is about tenderness. If we can begin to recognize our own fragility during this stressful time, we can be loving, kind, and patient with ourselves, our spouses, and our other children. Leo Buscaglia, the author of Love and the professor of Love 101 at the University of Southern California, makes the observation that love requires one to be strong. He shares that it is always from strength that gentleness arises, from our courage to be willing to be vulnerable.
Wow. Thank you so much for reading that. And that leads me to my next question, as I love to wrap up these chats with authors, is who needs to have this book in their hands as a gift? Who did you write this book for?
Well, the most obvious answer is it's for cancer parents. Anyone who has a child or loved one experiencing cancer at the moment. I hope that there will bring them comfort to know that there are others that know what they're going through, advice on what they can do to help get them through it. But it can be very uplifting. I found that there were others who had gone through different trials, different struggles in life, who found that some of the advice was helpful for them as well. So anyone going through a difficult time. I have a friend who they had a very deep tragedy in their family. They had lost a family member in very, very tragic circumstances, without saying more than that. And she had been hurting for decades. And I share a beautiful process called Ho'oponopono, which can help us to, it's when we're experiencing deep and heavy emotions, anger, frustration, resentment, guilt, any of those things. I could say to you, Jeanette, stop feeling angry, stop, and that will never work. We need something to help transition us from those deep, heavy emotions that are pulling us into the past, the things that are happening. And Ho'oponopono means 4 things. It means, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. But who we are saying it to, when we're stuck in those negative emotions. Now, for me, I would be stuck in the emotion of resentment towards my ex-husband. I'd have to be in the same room with him or his wife, and I would just stew in resentment over all the nasty things that had happened in the past. And he could be sitting across the room from me, and he couldn't care less. Right? It wasn't hurting him at all, but I'm the one who's rotting from the inside out in all of this resentment. And who it was hurting most was me and my relationship to God. Because God can't be in those negative. The only way we can feel God's presence is in the now, not when I'm thinking about last year or 10 years ago. It's only when I'm in the present moment right now. That I can be connected to God. So if I'm stuck in resentment and looking in the rearview mirror, I'm not connecting to him. So when I have that conversation is I say to God, I'm sorry, I'm stuck in this emotion right now. Please forgive me. And he always will. So the next response is thank you. And I love you. And now I have gone from that negative emotion to now I'm feeling peace and love and gratitude.
Wow, that needs to be on a plaque somewhere, written down, framed for people to have one on their desk, one on their bedside. What a beautiful way to bring you back to the moment and bring you back to the center and connect to God. So beautiful, beautiful. And I'd also like to think that this book is going to be amazing for those that care for people that are going, meaning the professional field as well, is hearing the human side of your patients going through with their families, that to hear their side of the story. So when it comes up, you know, some new skills and new tenderness, some new love to be able to deliver to the families and to patients that are going through either trauma or going through cancer. Oh my gosh, Laura, thank you so much. I'm trying to remember, how did we connect? Who referred me to you?
Is it Juliet?
Right. Always like to give a little shout out for people that connect, because you know, MYBC connect with community. Yeah, I'm in a sense of great joy right now. So my words are getting a little mixed up. I'm about connection. I'm about collaborating, and whether collaborating with time to share each other's story, woo, and living in the community that we all need to live in, and live in together in love, acceptance, kindness, and compassion. Woo. Thank you, Lori. And thank you at home for tuning in. Or if you're going to watch this on the replay, we'll make sure that Laura puts the link in the chat afterwards. Where you can go and purchase her book and maybe reach some to help guide through it. And it looks like my internet is going a little, my internet is starting to go. And again, Laura, thank you for staying up till 10 o'clock your time to share this with me tonight. I so appreciate it, as I have tears of joy. And thank you, everybody. Good night.